I never imagined the worst day of my life would start with a simple phone call. That Thursday morning began like any other, the soft hum of the coffee maker blending with the quiet rustle of cereal boxes as I prepared breakfast in our dimly lit kitchen. The faint sunlight filtered through the worn lace curtains, casting long, thin shadows on the tiled floor. Normally, I would hear Joao's footsteps creaking down the stairs well before the smell of frying bacon reached my nose. But that day, the house was unnervingly still. I paused, the spatula slipping slightly in my hand as a chill crept up my spine. Joao was always the first to wake, the first to greet the morning with the same steady rhythm, that comfortable, reassuring routine I'd come to rely on after so many years together. The silence felt like a dark cloud pressing down on me, suffocating and unnatural. My heart started to race. I called his phone, holding it close, eyes darting toward the stairs again. The buzzing seemed louder than usual, but it abruptly cut off, sending me spiraling into panic as the voicemail greeted me coldly. Joao never ignored my calls, not even once. A knot tightened in my stomach. Afternoon arrived slowly, slipping through cracks in the wallpaper and under the door frames. The house had grown colder, the air heavy as if it held its breath alongside me. My attempts to reach Joao multiplied texts, calls, knocking on doors of neighbors who shook their heads apologetically. No one had seen him. The car was still parked where he left it the day before, dust gathering silently on the windshield, mocking the sudden absence of his presence. I wandered through the backyard, the tall grass damp with morning dew, rustling faintly underfoot. The wind carried an eerie, hollow whistle, passing through the twisted branches of the old oak tree where Joao and I used to sit and dream about our future. Now, the tree's gnarled limbs looked like skeletal fingers clawing at the gray sky. The streets surrounding our home were desolate, echoing with the distant bark of a dog and the occasional creak of a swing swaying in a nearby empty playground. The neighborhood felt strange, like a ghost town frozen in a moment of unease. I searched every corner, every pathway Joao might have taken, and found nothing. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. Night fell with oppressive weight, shrouding the world outside in thick shadows that pressed against the windows like dark, watchful eyes. I sat by the cracked glass of the living room window, my heart pounding loud enough to drown out the silence that filled the room. The house felt vast and empty, a shell without its soul. I whispered his name, again and again, my voice cracking, caught between hope and despair. Each syllable seemed to dissolve into the stillness, swallowed by the creeping darkness. My breath fogged the window pane in front of me. I could feel the cold seeping into my bones, invading the fragile warmth that lingered in my chest. The night seemed endless, and with every passing moment, the terrifying possibility echoed louder in my mind. Joao, the man who had shared every heartbeat of my life, was gone, vanished without a trace, and I was left alone in the suffocating silence of his absence. Joao and I had been married for over 30 years, 3 decades woven together by countless mornings, evenings, and quiet afternoons that felt more like a shared heartbeat than just the passing of time. We weren't simply husband and wife. We were partners in every way that mattered. He was my rock, my anchor, the steady pulse that grounded me. Joel's kindness was a quiet, constant presence, like the steady drip of rain nourishing thirsty earth. I could always count on him to be there, whether it was tackling hard work with unwavering determination or showing his love in small, thoughtful ways that made the world feel safer. Our life was simple, but rich in its own rhythms. Every morning, before the sun fully stretched across the sky, I'd find Joao in the kitchen, brewing coffee with his familiar, patient movements. The aroma of brewed beans mingled with the crisp scent of the garden outside our window, where we made our little patch of earth bloom with flowers and vegetables. We tended it together, hands brushing soil and leaves, sharing these moments like whispered conversations between our souls. Throughout the day, we exchanged stories about the neighborhood, neighbors' news, gossip carried on the wind, building a woven tapestry of connection that wrapped around our quiet world. Joao was my safest place, the person whose presence smoothed the jagged edges of life's rough days. But recently, something had changed. It began subtly, like the faint tremble before a storm, unnoticed until the ripples became waves. Joao grew quieter, his laughter less frequent, his smiles dimmer behind eyes that held shadows. The man who had opened his heart so openly now seemed withdrawn, as if harboring a silent storm beneath his calm exterior. I noticed it in the way he absent-mindedly stared out the window for long moments, his hands clenched loosely at his sides. His voice, once firm and warm, carried a distant tone that left me reaching for fragments of the man I knew. Nights that had been filled with whispered conversations and shared dreams turned into stretches of heavy silence that settled between us, thick and suffocating. Still, I never allowed myself to imagine that this quiet withdrawal was leading to something unimaginable, that Joao would simply vanish. My heart refused to believe that the man who had anchored my life, who had been my companion through storms and sunshine alike, could one day leave without a trace, leaving me adrift in the dark, cold void of silence and unanswered questions. As the days slowly bled into weeks, the frustration that churned inside me twisted into a knot of pure, gnawing fear. Each morning, I woke to the same oppressive silence, the heavy weight of Joao's absence pressing down on everything around me, making even the familiar corners of our home feel alien and hostile. The creaks of the floorboards, the distant drip of a leaking faucet, all these everyday sounds turned into haunting echoes, reminding me that he was gone. The police had taken my statement with polite sympathy, their faces impassive, but their words brutally clear. Without any leads, there was nothing to investigate. Nothing but a void where he should have been. I felt abandoned by that cold reassurance. Each call I made to his friends, to his workplace, ended in the same empty answer. No one had seen Joao. No one knew where he could be. In the growing darkness of uncertainty, I found small, unsettling clues that tore through my heart. His wallet lay untouched on the kitchen counter, as if he'd planned to return at any moment. But his keys, the ones he never parted with, were missing. His phone sat there silent, a black mirror reflecting back the dread in my eyes. No calls, no messages, no sign of life. In his study, the room that once held the quiet murmur of his thoughts, I uncovered a scattered mess of pages, a notebook filled with fragmented, cryptic notes. Words seemed jumbled, phrases cut off, thoughts barely sketched, a tangled web of confusion that only deepened my fear. Was he planning to leave me? Was this some desperate message or a code I couldn't decipher? My heart stumbled through every line, lost in a maze with no exit, every blank space a new torment. The house seemed to breathe with its own sinister rhythm, shadows lurking where light once spilled. The ticking of the old clock became a relentless reminder of time slipping through my fingers. I found myself standing by the window too often, staring into the endless night, hallucinating Joao's silhouette in the flicker of distant streetlights. Was I losing my mind, or was the house whispering secrets I refused to hear? One night, sleep finally claimed me, but it came loaded with a vision that replayed itself with vivid terror. In my dream, I saw Joao standing at the edge of a jagged cliff, the sky above a roiling mass of dark, angry clouds. The sea below churned violently, waves crashing and hurling against sharp rocks like furious hands pulling him down. He gazed out at the stormy abyss, silent, still, and I wanted to scream, to reach him across that impossible distance. I awoke drenched in cold sweat, my heart pounding as though it might tear free from my chest. The ache between my ribs was sharp, an unbearable question burning through my mind. Was Joao in danger? Or was he trying to send me a message from somewhere I could not yet understand? A warning or a goodbye hidden in the restless shadows of that nightmare? The answer eluded me, slipping away like mist the moment I grasped for it, leaving only the suffocating silence and the relentless, creeping dread that I was losing him, not just to absence, but to something darker, something I feared to face. Then, almost a month after Joao's disappearance, something unexpected happened. As the gray dawn seeped hesitantly through the curtains, a small envelope was slipped quietly under the door. I found it there as I shuffled down the hallway in my slippers, the floor cold beneath my feet. My breath caught the moment I recognized the handwriting, the familiar loops and lines of Joao's script, unmistakable and achingly intimate. My fingers trembled as I picked it up, the paper fragile and worn, as if it had traveled a long, lonely path before finally reaching me. The letter was brief, but every word hit me like a stone sinking deep into the still water of my heart. It read, Zilda, I'm so sorry. This isn't the goodbye I wanted. Please don't look for me. I need time to find myself again. I love you more than words. Wait for me. I sat down immediately, clutching the letter like a lifeline, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I read those lines over and over, each time the meaning sinking deeper, yet somehow still opaque. The apology felt like a knife twisting inside my chest. Why had he left? What unbearable weight had driven the man I loved, the man who was always my strongest refuge, to slip silently away from the life we had built together? The house was silent, but heavy, the kind of silence that presses against your ears until even your own breathing sounds too loud. I found myself confronting painful questions that clawed at my mind, relentless and unforgiving. Had I missed the signs? Had I been blind to the growing darkness in his eyes? Were we simply living side by side, two strangers sharing the same space, but worlds apart in all the ways that really mattered? The letter felt like a desperate cry for help, a thin thread stretched taut between hope and despair. It tore open an ancient wound I thought had healed, the fissure between who Joao was and who he had become in the shadows of his own mind. Did he feel trapped, confined by invisible chains I couldn't see? Or was his disappearance an act of breaking free, a silent scream for freedom from something far darker than I could understand? I sat alone in the dim light, clutching that paper as the realization settled cold and heavy over me. It wasn't just the physical absence of Joao that scared me. It was the loss of the man I had believed him to be, the foundation of my life crumbling beneath the weight of an unknown truth. The person sitting quietly across from me at dinner, the one who shared my hopes and fears, was gone somewhere out there, maybe even lost to himself. The room around me felt suffocating, the walls closer than ever, closing in like the final breath of a nightmare. The letter's words echoed endlessly inside my head, haunting and unresolved. I need time to find myself again. Could he really return? Or was this just the beginning of a darker journey, one I wasn't ready to face? The fragile hope that his disappearance was temporary wrestled with the terrifying possibility that it was something far more permanent and unknowable. In that moment, I understood the frightening truth. I wasn't just waiting for Joao anymore. I was waiting for the answers that might never come. Years have passed since Joao disappeared, yet the silence he left behind still echoes relentlessly within the hollows of my heart. It is a silence so heavy, it feels almost tangible, like a thick fog pressing against my chest every time I am alone with my thoughts. Even so, I have never stopped hoping. I have never ceased searching, not for the man who vanished that day, but for the fleeting piece he must have been searching for himself, somewhere lost beyond reach. Some days, the world feels unkindly quiet, as though it conspires with the void Joao left. But in those quiet moments, I feel him. It starts with the brush of the wind against my cheek, delicate and fleeting, like the softest whisper of memory. Sometimes it is the warmth of sunlight streaming through the window, dust motes dancing golden in the afternoon air, as if he's reaching out to touch me in the simplest, most subtle ways. These sensations bring with them a strange comfort, a bittersweet reminder that though he is gone, a part of him lingers just beyond the veil of what I can see or touch. I have come to understand something vital through this loss. Love isn't always about holding on tightly, clutching someone to you until every breath is shared. Sometimes love is the hardest of all, letting go with an aching, trembling faith. It means releasing a hand that once felt so necessary and allowing the other person to drift where they must, even when the pain is sharper than anything I could have imagined. The man I called my husband disappeared without a trace, but what he left behind is far more profound than just absence. He left me with a deeper understanding, harsh yet humbling. Life is fragile, a delicate thread that can unravel in the blink of an eye. Yet, the heart, despite the torment it has endured, is astonishingly resilient. It can break, shatter even, but it also mends, bit by fragile bit, weaving threads of hope from the shards of despair. Through the darkest nights and quietest dawns, I have found a way to keep living. To move forward not because I have forgotten, but because I have chosen to carry both the pain and the memory side by side. And maybe on some distant horizon, Joao and I will find our way back to each other, or at least to the peace we both so desperately need. Until then, I remain here with the silence, the memories, and the flickering hope that love can transcend even the darkest of disappearances.